speaking of the Labour Party and their response to the Israel-Gaza conflict, I'm sure everyone's seen clips from this already, but we're going to watch the whole thing because it looks like it's going to be incredibly funny. Depressing, really depressing and alarming, but also funny. So James Schneider was on Talk TV debating a guy called David Menzer, who was a previous head of Labour Friends of Israel, like a director. And we've all seen the clips. We've all seen that David Menzer basically has like a full-on like corncob meltdown about Drumbly Crumbly and James Schneider, who stays very calm. I've not watched it all in its entirety, so I'm looking forward to see the position that he gets into and like the pure, like actual soy rage that he goes into. Should be very funny for us to watch. Let's have a look.
Look, the Labour Party finally has a leader that can stand up proud and represent this country on the world stage, in contrast to the former leader who barely could stand out on his allotment. He's made a stand. It's a stand which is logical, is in favor of human rights, recognizes the legitimate threat which Israel is facing. And I think all right-minded people support.
He doesn't even recognise the human rights of the people in the West Bank. The government keeps settling in the West Bank in violation of humanitarian law, whilst also committing crimes against humanity against the population themselves by violating their human rights. Like, it violates the human rights of the population in the West Bank all the time with complete impunity.
Support him for that. And anyone that doesn't, clearly shows their support for the barbaric actions of Hamas.
James, I don't know if you know anything about Corbyn's allotment, perhaps, but nonetheless, I mean, the point that's being made there by David is, very simple. I mean, Starmer has many hats to wear on this one, and you couldn't have trusted the predecessor with any of them.
So I really don't think we should be talking about this issue, which is to do with the lives and deaths of thousands of people through the prism of Labour Party internal politics, which most people in this country don't know about, and certainly the people that are losing their lives in West Asia know absolutely nothing about. The reason why Keir Starmer is under pressure is because he has tucked in behind the government, who themselves have then tucked in behind the US in their support for Israeli war crimes. That's why he's under pressure. And it's not because of Muslims or these voters or that voters. 76% of people in this country want to see a ceasefire now. And that's because that's the common sense position, because most people know that you don't respond to the unjustifiable killing of one group of children by killing a whole load more children. It doesn't make any sense. So what we should be doing, what we need from our politicians, which we don't have because they're in lockstep.
This is student politics, though. Saying that killing loads of people is bad, that's that's gesture politics. That's not the adults in the room, James. And you should know that adults in the room is where you say that I think that these people shouldn't kill children, but they do have a right to defend themselves whilst they kill loads of children. Like, that's the adults in the room perspective.
In support of the Israeli bombing campaign at the moment is to call for a ceasefire, because Britain not only provides diplomatic support for Israel, but we also help arm Israel. So we are complicit in the crimes which are taking place, and therefore we have an outsized role in the ability to try to bring about peace.
But sorry to interject, James, but this is about Labour's response, potentially our future Prime Minister's position on this.
Right, and what I'm saying is he's not doing his job, because 76% of people, according to a YouGov poll, want a ceasefire now. That is not a position that is being put forward by either the two major parties, which are parroting the same line and are just following the US. The US changes position slightly, they change position slightly. What I think we actually want from our next Prime Minister, from our politicians, is leadership, not following, and to stand up and say,
True. To put it another way, in a slightly less diplomatic way, in no way should we be the cuckboy bitch to the American State Department. We did that in 2001. Look where it got us, right? Look where it got us when we followed the American State Department's lead on international conflict, right? It took us into the Forever War, where not only did loads of British servicemen die, but also millions of Iraqis, hundreds of thousands of Afghans. So, yeah, the history tells us that following the American State Department's line on this stuff is not a good thing, and we should show some level of leadership. But of course, being America's cuckboy bitch is what the political media class wants. So that's what we're gonna get.
Overwhelming majority of the British public, 76% of the public, according to polling, is in support of the common sense position, which is to preserve the maximum amount of life. And therefore, we should be putting pressure on Israel to show maximum restraint and to stop razing Gaza to rubble, to turn back on the food, the water, the electricity, and the fuel, so that some relief can get in. We're just hearing on your show just now that the UN, who have already had 35, more than 35 probably now, of its own aid workers killed in bombing in Gaza, run out of fuel, unable to perform any...
Crazy, I know, that this is not the common sense position, apparently. Saying that maybe we should allow these people to eat and have the hospitals function so babies and incubators don't die. That is indeed... That's activist politics, right? That is siding with the terrorists. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. Famous quote. Don't check who said it. You might be upset. But he's not wrong. And he's correct to say this isn't about Labour internal party politics, right? This isn't about, oh, well, my faction versus your faction. This is the broad member base of the Labour Party, right? Labour Party voters, only 1% of them think there definitely should not be a ceasefire. Only 1%. Only another 2% think there probably shouldn't be. So all of the people who oppose a ceasefire amongst Labour voters, not members, right? Labour voters is 3%. 3%. That's it. 3% people there shouldn't be a ceasefire within the Labour movement broadly, not just the party membership. When you look at the entire country, 76% of people want there to be a ceasefire. So this isn't about momentum versus progress. This isn't about Labour right versus Labour left. This is about the overwhelming public consensus, both within the Labour Party and outside of it, to want there to be a ceasefire being called. He's 100% right to take this away from factional politics and towards the actual policy itself.
Services. This is an incredibly intense humanitarian catastrophe, and that's why the people of this country want to see a ceasefire, and that's why Keir Starmer is failing in his duty as leader of the opposition to not call for it.
OK, but David, your contention is it's not a failure at all. It's absolutely crucial to Starmer's leadership that he has this chasm between what he believes and what his predecessor believed, and we know Jeremy Corbyn has been...
And what the public believes, and what the public believes, and what the public want, right? Stop talking about the jam, man. Stop bringing up crumbly concrete at every single opportunity as some kind of proxy for everybody who stands with a free Palestine, everybody who wants there to be a ceasefire, everyone who opposes Israeli apartheid, right? Stop using him as your proxy to try and discount the 500,000 people who took to the streets today.
Fairly vocal on recent events in Israel and what is happening in Gaza. Is that at the expense, however, of, as James was saying, what many people believe, a ceasefire would be a good idea? He's got many of his backbenchers, not just Muslim backbenchers, saying the same thing. We've got...
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I will give him his props. He did indeed say that it was the overwhelming public opinion as well. I jumped in too early. I apologise.
Councillors, Labour councillors, resigning by the dozens over this, David. This is a tricky position for Keir Starmer. This is serious stuff.
Oh yeah, Schneider is like fully Jewish as well.
Look, I think the tricky position right here is sitting in your studio, and his name is James. James is, of course, a pound shop academic who underwrote, who sustained, who was the right-hand man of Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn, who certainly failed in his role as being leader of the Labour Party, giving the Labour Party its worst possible election result since the 1930s. But of course, he also pushed me and my family out of the Labour Party, where I was a member for the last 20 years or so. And he pushed me and my family over.
I love the best bit, right? The best bit is that they've just got over this man ranting about how crumbly concrete is this great threat to the country, this absolute, like, existential warning to every single person who believes in the existence of the state of Israel. And they've got all this like ranting, like the real red-faced ranting over footage of Jeremy Concrete doing some dances. I think it's very, very funny to me. Just him dancing with Ollie Murs is their backdrop for him being called like a vicious anti-Semite. just flossing over his belief and support of terrorists.
To live in Israel. That's what anti-Semitism does in the UK. And James endorsed it. James, of course, is not the most trustworthy of people because he was, of course, before being vaguely associated with the Labour Party, leading Momentum. But of course, before that, he was president of the Lib Dem Society. And of course, he's been writing for the...
President of the Lib Dem Society like 12 years ago. I voted Lib Dem in 2010, mate, right? My politics have changed substantially since then. At least, are you trying to say that the Liberal Democrat Society breeds anti-Semitism into people? He's just some kind of massive fifth column to turn the Labour Party into the Liberal Democrats. I mean, you're already more right-wing than the Liberal Democrats now. At least the Liberal Democrats want to build council houses and believe that trans people should be treated with dignity. I can't believe I'm saying this. I mean, potentially, James might have turned away from the Liberal Democrats when they started the whole austerity thing. Because I was very pro-Liberal Democrat in 2005, when the only person being anti-war was Charles Kennedy. Maybe that's why he joined the Lib Dem Society. God knows it contributed to me being won over by Nick Clegg.
Conservative Home newspaper. So James is a tin pot student politician that really should stay in the student union.
I mean, they literally called him student politics. I think that it's bad when people die. Oh, this tin pot student politics. Maybe we shouldn't have more people dying, especially the fact that half of them are children in Gaza. This is activist nonsense from an ex-Lib Dem fifth column traitor. He's going red already. Red rage. It's too on the nose. It's too on point, chat. It's too on point for him to be there with turn like full like a gammon rage is in front of your screens with red rage underneath it. It's too good. It's too on the nose.
This is about big boy politics. Here.
Okay, well,
this is about
did he say that Jeremy Corbyn forced him to move to Israel? Right, mate. If Jeremy Corbyn becoming leader of the Labour Party makes you flee the country, I think you might have your priorities and your view of reality a little bit warped. I think you might not be living in reality if you have to flee the country because of Drumbly Crumbly Concrete. Or maybe you've been listening to too much Simon Heffer.
All right, David. No, I hear you. There's a lot in there. We learned a lot about James's CV as well here. Didn't know about the Conservative Home bit. But
well, it's not true.
The pound shop academic stuff. I mean, you're not really the man to be talking about this is David.
Look how he's still there ranting as he gets cut off. It's like a Twitch politics debate. It's like he's turned into Destiny, just like continually talking all the time.
Well, I think he's still going. I mean, most of what he said is factually inaccurate, but I'm not really going to. This isn't about me. I'm not here to talk about my
adults in the room. Chat. Just remember, guys, these are the adults that are in the room now. The ones having to get cut off because they can't stop ranting.
Myself, if we want to have.
But do you represent a view, the Momentum view, the Corbyn view? I think that's overarching.
The position that I represent is what 76% of people in the UK, according to YouGov Pollsport, we want a ceasefire now. That is the common sense position. It, in my view, is the only morally plausible position, and we have a role. Everybody in this country actually has a role in helping bring about peace because our government is a major supporter of Israel. And we can pressure our politicians, and if they change course, that can have a material effect in the field. That can help save lives.
Yeah, true. That one talking calmly with like a rational point that's being made is, of course, the child and the tin pot student politician, and not indeed the man having an actual soy rage meltdown on the other end of the phone.
So I'm not here talking for anybody. I'm just saying that this is the case. The reason why the overwhelming majority of people want a ceasefire is because it is the common sense, right thing to do, and our political class is not offering it to us at all. Neither the Conservative Party nor Keir Starmer's Labour.
Okay. Thank you to David. Do you want to get a final
overwhelming-
word in, David?
Yeah, the overwhelming majority of the British people rejected Corbyn's approach to international policy because this is a terrorist organization which cannot be appeased, as James suggests. It needs to be defeated because if it...
I mean, well, I'm definitely print screening that. That is definitely going to be a thumbnail for the video. The perfect freeze frame. We got that there. The grinning, gnashing teeth. The absolute kind of venomous rage that's come over him. Just absolutely seething. Like true soy jack material. Somebody screen cap that and soy jack this. I demand someone in chat turns this into a soy jack. You could potentially say that. I've said that I think that the UK public is a little bit too pro-imperialist to get on board with the internationalism of Drumbly Crumbly Concrete. I think that probably did contribute a lot to why his poll ratings went down. But I think most of all, the poll ratings went down because his approach to internationalism was then marketed by the press as him being like the next coming of Hitler, which of course he wasn't, right? Like, I think that his approach to international politics was a reason why that we ended up with the result that we did. But I think it's mostly not because he held the wrong positions, but because people reported his positions very disingenuously. And that was the impression people got of his foreign policy takes.
If it's not defeated here, it will take root on the streets of London. We already saw 100,000 people marching from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. That
It was
means
more than
the
100,000. I was there.
by people.
No, it doesn't mean the eradication of Jews. That's not what from the river to the sea means. Please read like 5 minutes of anyone doing commentary on this subject. Please stop it, David. You know that's not what it means. You just want to paint all of the people marching on the street as terrorist sympathizers because it's the only line that you have. It's the only justification that you have for the actions of the state of Israel continually violating international law with complete impunity over and over and over again, both inside this conflict and outside of this conflict, right? It's the only point that you have. And this, if you don't defeat it now, it will take root on the streets of Britain. There's just no evidence for this claim at all, right? You say that, but his speech in the aftermath of the Manchester Arena bombing went down very well from Ghost Cat and chat in response to me discussing Jeremy Corbyn's foreign policy. It did. And because that was in 2017, so that was before all of the smear campaign really started hitting fever pitch. It was because he did so well in 2017 that the spears became so widespread and so obvious between then and the 2019 election, because they didn't think he'd win. They didn't think they needed to. And then, 2017 happened, 40% of people voted for Labour, and suddenly we have to smear this man, he cannot be in number 10. So, people were at least somewhat agreeable to his position, just maybe not on everything.
And it wasn't frightening at all.
People here in Israel. James, you've had your turn. Now it's my chance. It's time to expose your hypocrisy. It's time to expose your love of Jew haters. And it's time to put an end to Hamas. And all genuine people would agree with that notion, while, of course, protecting the lives of hostages and, of course, of ordinary Palestinian people.
So thank you for the Prime sub blank claim. I had notifications turned off because it's a segment, but I do appreciate it.
That last comment may well be seen as a yellow card, I think, from James. I mean, your love of Jew haters, I think you would wish to refute that unequivocally.
It's absurd. I mean, I'm not getting into his ridiculous ad hominem stuff, which is offensive, false, idiotic. And most importantly, we are talking about a conflict where people are dying. I don't care if this bloke doesn't like me. I don't care if I like him.
You support evil Hamas. I do not. And right-thinking people.
Okay, I obviously don't support evil Hamas.
Evil.
If he were listening
evil
to what
Hamas,
I'm saying,
child killers,
I'm saying that
women rapers.
Literally having a soy rage. He can't even let James speak, even though he's saying, obviously I don't support Hamas, right? Like he literally has to talk down to him, just like calmly, just saying, no, I don't believe those things. Stop smearing me. I mean, he's literally, why would he like Jew haters? He's literally Jewish.
child beheaders. Yes, evil Hamas, James. You support them.
No, I don't.
reject them.
Anyway, I'll just let
think
him
the
run out of steam,
majority
and then maybe we
behind
can
me
return to
right
some
now.
sanity. Because
Majority of
what we're
British people
talking
are
about
right
here,
behind me,
you know.
not behind you and your tin pot idea.
Thinks he says the majority of people behind him. No, the majority of people want a ceasefire, David. You're just completely out of the loop on this. I'm sorry. You're just not in the loop with this. You do not take the position everybody else does.
Yes.
All right, David, on that point, thank you, David Mensah, for joining us. Very animated stuff. James is staying with us.
For him to talk on like the IDF. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the kind of people that you have to deal with on the Labour right. They're just incredibly weird, demented individuals. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.